It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's today. You do yourselves right, a little bit of fast-paced racing. And by the way, a lot of people have been getting their refund checks over the last couple of weeks, and with tax day just coming up, I believe, on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, the
16th or 17th is when tax day is?
I was going to say, normally it's the 15th, but they moved it back because that's on the weekend.
Yeah.
So they've given a little more time. And, for people like me that procrastinate for no reason because I don't have to pay anything, and I sure ain't getting nothing back. But
if you do end up getting a tax refund check, what a better place to spend it than at Joe's Karting. What you can do is buy the races in advance. You get a little bit of a discount when you buy in bulk. It's kind of like Sam's Club, except quality stuff. And you can put it all on
that sponsorship I was working on.
You can put it all on your account, and then whenever you get the hankering to do a little bit of racing, you can head over to Joe's Karting, swipe your membership card, and use as many races as you have on your account at your discretion. joeskarting.com for more information on pricing, hours, and also corporate event bookings. joeskarting.com, karting with a K.
I got a quick little thing I want to mention. As a lot of my friends know that listen to the show and stuff, and you know that I've got a history in the car industry with selling and peddling cars, and now I work for a buddy of mine at a car lot and just do some driving around for him, where their car's got to go get a bumper put on them or just getting their oil changed and brakes checked and stuff to be sold, whatever it is. I just drive them around town or go get them for him.
Yeah.
And the other day I drove one, and it was a little Chevy Cruze, but it was a loaded Cruze, leather seats, everything in this thing. And, I said, what did that come in on? Well, it came in on this pickup that we'd picked up a week ago. So the truck was on the market at his place for 2 days, and this guy come in and bought it. But the cool thing about this car is it was about a Pepsi blue color, but the little sticker on the back said it came from Jeff Gordon Chevrolet in North Carolina.
No kidding.
So if anybody's a 24 fan and thinking about buying, a little machinery to drive around on, it was a Chevy Cruze with about, I think it was 74,000 miles.
Yeah.
Get out and take a look. It was pretty cool. I was impressed with it. I haven't seen a Jeff Gordon. Every once in a while you see a Earnhardt Chevrolet.
Yeah.
But I'd never seen a Gordon Chevrolet sticker around
I guess
the
I
area.
didn't realize he actually owned dealerships.
I guess he does.
He obviously, or somebody named Jeff Gordon does. Yeah. I mean, we know there could be multiple Jeff Gordons out there.
But I just thought the Pepsi blue color, since he used to be hooked up with Pepsi, was rather appropriate.
Yeah, it was really cool. All right, well, let's hang on, got to burp the throttle there and get back into the groove. Plan for today's show, turn number 1, we're going to recap the race at Texas, and we're going to take an extended version that's only going to be heard online and talk about a lot of the NASCAR news and notes that have happened over the last 10 days, 14 days, maybe 2-3 weeks or so. So that'll be an exclusive online you can find on our YouTube channel at about 10 a.m. this morning. In turn number 2, Stan Cisar is going to join us to preview the 2018 Eagle Raceway schedule. Turn 3, PJ Pederson will join us to preview the 2018 Crawford County Speedway schedule, which, by the way, both of those tracks were supposed to be in action this weekend, and neither of them are. Actually, I think CCS was supposed to be off this weekend, but they were supposed to be on like 2 weeks ago. So, Mother Nature's not been cooperating.
Thanks to
much.
Mona.
Yep, she's a little fickle this year, as we've come to expect. So, turn 3, PJ Pederson will join us to talk about that. And by the way, both of those interviews were cut down a little bit for time, so we had room in the entire hour, because I think we both know Stan Cisar and PJ Pederson could fill up a whole hour on their own, and with good content, but I got to trim them down to fit in within our hour to get everything we got to do.
They could fill up an hour on each race weekend.
So I cut their interviews down just a little bit with some of the extra talk that we had as we were all sitting down and having conversations, but you could find the full unedited interviews online on the YouTube channel, as I talked about again in turn number 1 with the NASCAR news and notes. And then in turn number 4, we got a lot to preview. We'll preview the race at Bristol that's coming up today at 1 o'clock on Fox and MRN. And then we're also going to preview this coming Saturday night's race at Richmond, because we'll be live next Sunday to recap Richmond, so we won't be available to preview it. So we got to do it today during turn number 4.
And hopefully, since we pre-record on Thursday and it's a beautiful day outside, and practice night at I-80, hopefully that's going to go great, and hopefully they'll get their first night of racing in on Friday if the weather doesn't smash in here like they keep kind of moving it up.
That's just mean.
Oh, well, it's getting
us.
so old.
I know. It really is. I've said this 100 times in the last 3 months. I can't tell if it's because this is the first time I've experienced my 36th year of winter, or if it really is this annoying and bad, if this is something new, because I haven't experienced that much of it.
Well, it's not brand new, but it definitely hasn't happened in a while. I mean, the last time I remember the racing season having a tough time getting started, I believe, was in 2011. I was working at Park Jefferson, and we went 6 weeks before we got our opening night in.
That's so annoying. And there's people that are just, absolutely frothing at the mouth for this race season to get started. All right, let's recap the results that happened at Texas for the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. It was a 26th annual running of that race. What a good race that we had on our hands. They really worked the track. I think they worked it well to where this was only about the second or third race on that surface since they'd repaved it. I believe this would be the third, right?
Yeah, I believe
because they ran
it
twice last year, and they ran the tire dragging machine, which adds kind of wears that surface down just a little bit to where it slows the cars down a little bit, makes them a little more competitive. And I think it was a great race. I really had my money on Kevin Harvick. Unfortunately, his pit crew didn't have they forgot to show up.
Well, and they're making part of the blame on NASCAR's gun.
Yeah, I don't buy that, by the way. I think drivers do a really, really good job of never blaming themselves, and not necessarily never, but never really owning up to, yeah, this could have been my mistake. The pit guns that NASCAR issued didn't cause the two uncontrolled tires that were really the biggest issues.
Well, and they weren't even penalized for them.
They were penalized for one of them.
Well, but the second one that would have definitely dropped them out of second place in the standings.
Yeah.
And that's something NASCAR has really cracked down on this year, is the going outside, and they've got to realize they don't have two tire carriers anymore. Last year that was never called if that tire went a foot or two outside the outside stripe. But they called it in the Xfinity race about 50% of the time, because there were a bunch of them they didn't call, because I was watching for it after they called it the first time. And there were several tires they didn't call in the Cup race. Yeah. And some of them, the guy's 5 laps down. What's a penalty going to do to him? It ain't going to make much difference. So you let it go. But it definitely would have made a bunch of difference there at the front of the field.
I on Facebook, Joey Sperano, here's the story. There was a second loose tire that NASCAR ruled was not an uncontrolled tire. And then shortly after the race was over with, I believe it was competition director, or was it the president, Brad Drury,
Dwars or whatever
his name is. He came out and said that they screwed up. That should have been a penalty, and so it kind of started this little firestorm on Monday and Tuesday. And you'd shared the article, and you and Joey Sperano had a great conversation. I think it was Joey that actually shared it and said NASCAR needs to get rid of this uncontrolled tire penalty, and I can't disagree anymore. This is a safety thing that uncontrolled tires. Imagine an 85-pound object getting hit by a 3,500-pound object traveling at 35 miles an hour. You think it's going to bounce just down pit road or into the grass? No.
Who knows where is it going?
The laws of numbers are going to tell you that thing's going to fire off into pit lane, over the wall, and it's going to kill somebody. And then we're going to be sitting here going, why isn't NASCAR controlling all these tires that are floating around on pit road?
Well, the first thing is, the guy who's coming upon this tire rolling across is going to do his damnedest not to hit it. Mm-hmm. Okay, but all he's going to do at 35 or 40 miles an hour at pit road speed is slam on his brakes, and the three guys behind him can't see the tire. And by the time the spotter even says anything, it's too late. You've got 3 cars damaged, and the tire's rolling out into the grass between the pit road and the racetrack.
And God forbid it rolls out onto the race surface, and now you've got 3,500-pound cars going 200 miles an hour hitting this thing.
Yeah,
because you can't move your car that agilely, they're not that agile. They're on the edge that if you crank the wheel to avoid it, you're gonna spin out and wreck.
The rule's there for a reason. When they used to have 2 tire carriers, you didn't see the loose tire going out that way very often. Every once in a while, the guy'd reel it over, and the catcher didn't catch it. It'd bounce off the wall and take off out into pit lane. That's definitely a penalty. No question. But now when you've only got one tire carrier and the guys are having to roll these tires around for that tire to go 2 or 3 foot out of the box shouldn't be a penalty.
Yeah.
They got to give on something here.
And going to the pit gun conversation, NASCAR's owned up well that they've had more issues with these guns than they have wanted
anticipated.
And they're working to fix them. But, I think teams are also cleverly blaming a lot on these guns that, I was watching NASCAR America on Monday, and Landon Castle was talking about absolutely you heard these guns failing all the time in previous years, whether it be on his team when he was with the 34 team, or whether it be on Joe Gibbs Racing or Hendrick Motorsports. You heard about these guns failing before, but the drivers never came out and blasted the guns and said, we've got crappy equipment. Now, guns are still failing, and it is NASCAR's fault. Absolutely, it's NASCAR's fault. But now they've got someone else to point the blame at other than their crew, their team, or themselves. And that's kind of a classic thing with a driver. And I'm not bagging them at all. I mean, it's kind of the game you got to play.
Well, for those of us in the sport, you're relatively new to the sport, but for as long as I've been in the sport watching these races, I swear I have never seen an air gun break in half as the one did a couple weeks ago. I think it was Daniel Suarez's team had that gun. Actually, the whole handle just broke off of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just never seen that before. I don't know where NASCAR got these things. I will take a good look at them when we get down to Kansas City, because I'm curious.
Right.
If that handle broke off, I'm thinking it's some kind of a plastic or composite material that, somebody's paying NASCAR to use these guns and get them on TV, but
and again,
it ain't working.
We've come to an area where in the offseason, all of the teams went to NASCAR and said, you have got to do something about these guns. We don't want to spend the amount of money that Joe Gibbs Racing has spent developing their guns. They were leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else, and rumor has it they spent right around about $1 million to develop these guns. And teams like Starcom Racing and Front Row Motorsports and Premium Motorsports, their $1 million budget for a pit road gun would cover them for 5 or 6 races, maybe even more than that. That's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on pit road to pick up a second and a half. So the teams went to NASCAR and said, please do something about it, and NASCAR has now done something about it. And they've owned up and said, it's not perfect yet, but we're going to work it out, and we're going to get it figured out. You'll be fine in 10, 15 weeks. Once we get all the bugs worked out of this whole system, we'll be in better shape. But again, I just want to point out, this was the teams going to NASCAR saying, please regulate this so we don't have to spend the money to catch up to Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, it was that, what do they call that group they've got there now? Between
the RTA?
Yeah, the RTA, which is not all the teams.
Yeah.
So, they can't specify that every team wanted it, because not every team votes in that, and we don't know if every team that does vote in it wanted it. But it came through that group.
Yeah. I believe any charter holding team has a vote in that group. I believe.
Well, I was going to say the Stewart Haas bunch. There's a couple of their teams that aren't involved with it, and they've got 4 charters.
Well, but it's ownership. So if you have a charter owning team, like Hendrick Motorsports doesn't have 4 votes, but they have a say in the RTA. If you own a charter, you get in the group. Right.
See, I don't think Stewart Haas is involved in it. I don't think they like the idea of the racers, the tail wagging the dog, so to speak. And I don't care for it either. NASCAR been around a long time. They listened to individual racers when it was a serious concern, but to have them kind of running the program a little bit. Yeah. And NASCAR had to try it because, as we had a discussion earlier today, there's so much going on in NASCAR. NASCAR was looking for something.
Yeah.
If we've got a problem, let's try and fix it, but you guys got to help us with an answer.
Yeah, George Steinbrenner said it best. You start listening to the fans, you're going to start sitting with the fans.
Exactly.
And my favorite saying in life is when God wants to punish us, He grants our wishes.
To an extent.
To an extent, right. It's a great way of saying that sometimes what you want is a very short-term solution causing a long-term issue.
Yeah, it's kind of the old saying is be careful what you wish for.
There you go. There's another way of saying it. All right, getting back to the Texas results, what a rough race for a couple of people. Martin Truex Jr. involved in an accident early on. We had some tires being blown because of Fox was talking about maybe a little bit too much camber in that front right tire.
That's never happened before. That's brand new.
No, never happened before. Kyle Larson also tagged the wall early. By the way, Martin Truex Jr. finished tail on Charlie 37th. He walked away with 1 point. Kyle Larson ended up walking away with 7 points on the day, finishing 36th. Jimmy Johnson 35th. Denny Hamlin 34th. Brad Keselowski 33rd. Eric Almirola 32nd. All of those cars involved in big accidents and some hard hits too. That one that Larson took was hard.
And all of those drivers scored more points than I did.
Who'd you take? You didn't take
well,
any.
I was going to take the 14 and see if maybe he could start another win streak like Harvick had done out of the same farm. And he still had a good run. But I was about 15 minutes off on when I was going to make my pick because I was an hour off on the start time of the race.
And I'm glad you didn't pick him because I took him, and he ended up finishing 9th, taking home 39 points on the day.
Well, if I'd have picked him, then he would have got 9 points.
Right. Other rough finishes. Daniel Suarez finished 29th. During his accident, he ended up hurting his thumb, which he was later cleared earlier this week for action today at Bristol Motor Speedway. Austin Dillon finished 22nd or 26th, and Landon Castle finished 21st in Starcom Racing's 00 car, matching their best finish of their Cup Series career.
And Daniel Suarez is going to wish after he goes to Bristol that he had been told to sit out a week because that's going to be one sore thumb.
It's going to be tough on his thumb.
He's going to have a lot of work going. I'll bet he actually does something with the steering wheel, whether he tapes up a spot for his thumb to sit on or something. He's going to be driving a lot one-handed.
Top 10 finishes. William Byron finishes in that 10th spot. Clint Bowyer 9th. Darrell Wallace Jr. 8th. Kurt Busch 7th. Joey Logano 6th. And Ryan Blaney in the top 5. Eric Jones 4th. Jamie McMurray 3rd. Kevin Harvick 2nd. And Kyle Busch ends up getting the win. I was really surprised at Harvick's strategy late in that race that he didn't stay out a couple of more laps after Kyle Busch came in, maybe 4 or 5 laps, and try to get him some fresher tires towards the end of that race.
Well, if one thing the racing season has taught us this year, you lose so much time to that guy on his new tires. He's going forward, you're going backward. That when you come in pit, was it Atlanta race? I'm trying to think of what race it was. There was one where somebody pitted. The chain started with like the second place driver, and by the time they'd gone an extra 20 laps or whatever it was, 18 laps, I don't remember specifically, and he came in and pitted, he ended up 4 seconds behind the other driver. Now, granted, he's going to get some of that up, but he never did pass him.
Well, this was a little bit of a different situation where Harvick had fresher tires. When he had 20 laps fresher tires when he decided to come in right after Kyle Busch did. I thought maybe he would run, and I mean, I'm not, like you were talking about there with your example, I think they ran 20 or so laps. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 laps, because what you give up in those 5 or 6, 7 laps that Kyle Busch has fresher tires, I don't think it's an even exchange. I think Kevin would have came out in a little bit better situation. But, and it also kind of surprised me because that crew had struggled all day long with a good pit stop. Leave him out there and let him run for a little bit longer and try not to extend. Well, you had to bring him down pit road anyways.
Well, the tire deal, once you got the 12 to 15, 20 laps on the tires, you knock the new out of them. They might as well be 50-lap tires because there's no difference. You look at the lap times, they prove it. Those cars will run the same lap time, but those new cars coming out running a second and a half or a second and 3/4 faster, it does make a huge difference, and he just didn't want to get behind.
Yeah.
There were several cautions. This wasn't like the Martinsville race where you had no cautions, so you didn't count on a caution. Here they could count on a caution. They started the third lap of the race or the second lap, and they went all day long.
We were coming out to the second lap when that wreck came out, or
which by the way is when I realized the race was on, as I was getting ready to make my pick. So
a good day for Jamie McMurray. 3rd place finish, started 24th, finished 7th in stage 1. Wasn't able to get to the top 10 for stage 2, but 38 points on the day. What a good day for Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, and Jamie, he has his days. He has good days. He has bad days, and I mean, he's in a team car with Kyle Larson, so obviously he's got the equipment Kyle's got. So if they get their setup and they hit it the right way, they can run up front. Some
of these guys, when they finish top 10 or top 5 at Texas, I think it means a lot more to them than if they finish top 5 or top 10 at like a super speedway or maybe even a short track, because what we talked about before, the Cup Series schedule is filled with 1.5-mile, 2-mile tracks. So if you can get a top 5 finish at a track like Texas, which is a 1.5-mile track, and you didn't fall into it or you didn't strategy your way into it, you fought your way into it, you had a good car, that's very promising for a lot more races to come.
Absolutely. It means that you've gotten closer to whatever combination was that you weren't getting before. You know, obviously, if Jamie's driving style is a little bit different than Kyle's Larson's. He's not a rim rider. Kyle don't mind going up there 6 inches from the wall and flying.
Yeah.
You know, he does it everywhere. He doesn't care. That's not where Jamie likes to run. Jamie's a little bit more of a bottom feeder. So Jamie cannot just grab Kyle Larson's setup and go racing. It won't work.
Right.
You know, it's just not where he likes to drive.
Right.
Now, Brendan Gaughan could jump in Kyle Larson's car and go ripping around the top because that's where he likes to be. So when Jamie's searching for something and they hit one track and miss another one, well, now he's just got a little more data that they can plug into the equation and maybe get him a little closer for when they, say get to Kansas or Charlotte, the next 1.5-mile track.
Yep. Interesting news coming out of NASCAR. After this race, Chase Elliott finished in the 11th spot after starting 20th. He was able to finish 9th in Stage 1, 6th in Stage 2, went home with 33 points on the day until they discovered that he had improper, well, I can't remember the exact terminology, but basically his rear windshield, it wasn't attached correctly.
Yeah, now isn't it kind of funny that, Harvick's caved in? I'd like to, or I'd hope somebody comes up with a picture of Chase Elliott's caving in because it's the exact same thing, except where Harvick's brace actually broke.
Yeah.
This brace didn't break, but I'm sure it was doing a little bit of flexing in there.
It doesn't really say what it did, and that's something that NASCAR is very good about. They will state the violation that this falls under, but they won't state how it falls under it. It could have been another, like we talked about with, again, you're going to have to remind me, is it Blaney? It was Blaney in the 21 car last year.
Kansas.
They said that they just a bolt worked its way loose.
Yeah, we didn't get it tightened down.
And that could have been the same thing with Chase Elliott. And unfortunately, a mistake in not tightening a bolt is the same as deliberately not tightening a bolt in the world of tech inspection.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to get fined either way because it's illegal.
And if they find it at the track, NASCAR's got a table. They would take that part away from that race team so they can't use the illegal part. And they set it out on this table where everybody can see it. Shame on the, the 21 car or whoever it happens to be, in this case, the 9 car. But with this thing happening back at the R&D Center, obviously that's not going to happen. But another nice thing to note on this is it was an 11th place finish. That 11th place car went to the R&D Center because they take random cars.
Well, it actually went for another reason, and we'll talk about that during the NASCAR news.
Was that the wind tunnel part?
Yeah, his car was taken for the wind tunnel, and maybe that's where they found it. But he could have been the random also.
Oh, no, I guarantee you before those cars went to the wind tunnel, they were all checked and approved to make sure that they were good aero-wise to go in the wind tunnel, and that support would have been wrong. So it would have given a false reading in the wind tunnel.
Let's see, 2-race suspension for crew chief Alan Gustafson.
Which is tough.
$50,000 fine for Alan Gustafson, and 20 owner points and 20 driver points were removed from Chase Elliott. Listen, we've talked about this quite a bit, about the chase system and the playoff system, how penalties don't really matter much as long as you have a win. Right. For Chase Elliott, this drops him down 20 points. He didn't have a win last year, and if my memory serves me right, he was one of the few 2 or 3 cars that qualified for the playoffs off of points. This is now his second L1 penalty in this season alone. 7 races in, he has 2 L1 penalties. He's lost a lot of points this year because of his crew not securing the car, testing something, trying something out, and getting caught. Well, whatever the issue was that violated NASCAR's rules, I'm not going to call him that C word because I don't know if that's what they were doing. If they're making mistakes, they got to quit making mistakes because this could be the one that keeps them out of the playoffs. And this could have been his first car. I don't know. It could have been his first car for the year because, we're early. That's gone back to the tunnel, or not to the tunnel, but to the R&D Center. It's not like he's had a whole bunch of top 5s yet. So this could be the very first car that they've looked at. He might have had this illegal part or illegal setup in every race this year. Yeah. We just don't know. Talking about that wind tunnel test. Now, this is something that NASCAR has started doing the last couple of years.
They've done it forever.
They will randomly pick a race, and it makes total sense why it was Texas, because
Aero
this
race.
was right. It's an aero race, and it was after the break. So if anybody had learned anything in the first couple of races, they're going to start trying it at Texas or coming up here at Bristol or Richmond or somewhere. They're going to start trying it here. And so they pick 2 cars from each manufacturer to load up, and the teams don't know in advance. They get told after the race, we're taking your car with us. We're taking it to the wind tunnel, and all they're doing is testing to make sure that body style is still within the parameters that they originally approved. And that, because, these teams work on these bodies just a little bit here and there.
It's called massaging.
Right. And understand that the wind tunnel doesn't necessarily test for chassis building, framework, where this stuff is sitting where. It's strictly testing the parameters for where the drag and the aero advantages are for those body styles. Now, like you talked about, these cars were probably heavily inspected before they went into the wind tunnel, and that was probably where they caught the number 9 being in violation. But this is strictly to find out if they have worked with the bodies at all to gain a larger advantage.
Well, it's not necessarily that. It also, if one manufacturer has figured out an advantage, whether their nose is better than their nose. And, I mean, all that stuff's wind tunnel tested before the season, but now it's in a race application. And, I mean, NASCAR has been doing this for a long time. This isn't anything new. Just like when they take a chassis dyno to the track and they'll strap down 8 cars. With the wind tunnel, a little bit different than the chassis dyno. The wind tunnel, they've got to make sure these cars, they usually, so I want to stress that because not always, but they usually take the top 2 placed cars from each manufacturer. Okay, so if you've got Fords running first and second, third and fourth, the Fords first and second are going. Third and fourth place cars aren't going. So that's what they try to do. Every once in a while, you'll end up with a car that comes into the top 5 or 10 or whatever that's got a hole in the nose, or, a torn up top of a front fender or something like that, but it really wasn't that big a deal. If it's a wind tunnel car, it's not going. They've got to have a complete body in pretty reasonable shape before they'll take it into the wind tunnel. Otherwise, the test is no good.
Right.
If you put a hole in the nose of the car, the wind tunnel numbers are going to be all screwed up. If that car's in a draft, that hole makes absolutely no difference.
Absolutely.
So he can still, if he's behind the 4th place car and running 5th, he's still going to finish 5th, but he won't end up at the wind tunnel.
Announced earlier this week that Bristol plans on treating the bottom groove of the track again like they've done for the last couple of years, and apparently this has gained a new term called the Bristol Bite.
Well,
I like it. I think it's kind of catchy.
Well, you were talking about when they did it at Texas, trying to wear the track down to where there's a little grip on or a little bit of wearing on the tires where they slide around. It's actually the opposite. They're trying to put rubber into the track to make the track adhesive, sticky, not slow them down and slide, but make them sticky. And they've shown it at Bristol. And, they've tried it several tracks now, and it does bring a second groove in a lot quicker. I mean, I'm all for it at Bristol because it made a lot better race last year. We had some great races there.
And Kyle Busch is a big fan of it. He talked about it in post-race while he was standing in Victory Lane at Texas, that he is a big fan of the treatment of the bottom groove at Bristol because he's a bottom feeder at Bristol. He just can't make his car work right on the top groove like most people could. And after they redesigned the track, he really struggled there. But over the last couple of years, when they've been treating that bottom groove, he's been able to get his car to work a lot better down there again, so he's back up to the top. So, of course, he gives the thumb up to the Bristol Bite.
And
like that.
And
I do like that. I don't know why.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It gets a Bristol Bite.
I could just say that with a little southern drawl and a beer in my hand or something. But, no, the driving style, again, for Kyle, doesn't suit him running that high line. That's just not where he wants to be. So the way he gets his car set up and rotating on the bottom, which, again, that's what you're going to hear if you watch a bunch of practice. My car just doesn't rotate like it should. That's all you're going to hear about. And all that means is the weight transferring literally the whole weight of the car. When you go into the turn, you go down into turn 1, you turn the wheels to the right. The whole weight of the car transfers to basically the right 2 tires, and they basically turn the car. So they call that rotating because basically you're going in and making a U-turn, and heading the other way. So if the car doesn't rotate, you've got an issue. You can't get your gas back down and get the tires hooked and going forward the other way. But that's where some of the guys don't need their car to rotate so bad, is guys like Kyle Larson, Jeff Gordon was good at it. Tony Stewart was real good at it because of their dirt track experience. They feel the car so much different. Carl Edwards.
Yep.
But the Bristol Bite will make for a much more entertaining race. And for those that aren't watching every race, if you don't watch these next two races, you really don't know what NASCAR is about right now.
Well, you're missing out. I mean, it's in my opinion, these races this year have been pretty good. I'm not going to say they're great, but I think they've been pretty good. I was really happy with Texas. I was happy with Auto Club. I thought both of those races were really, really well run. Today's going to be a big race. I mean, Bristol usually does not let down. It can happen. Weird conditions have happened. I was really surprised with Martinsville. I figured there'd be a lot more bumping and beating and banging, and I didn't really see a lot of it. Felt like a lot of those drivers were just kind of keeping it cool and getting done with the race because it was a delayed race on Monday. But today should be a great race.
Well, and that could very well be the holdover to Monday race might have been why the guys took it a little easier. Usually there's a lot of payback at a track like Martinsville.
Yeah, and it's early for a payback. At Bristol today too. There's not a lot of griping that's going on in these 7 races for there to be a lot of payback.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of back and forth stuff. There's been a little bit, but not a whole bunch. But it's going to be a good race. Richmond next week I'm looking forward to. That was one of the best 2-race combinations I've seen in a couple of years. 2 years ago, like when Carl Edwards bumped Kyle Busch out of the way in turns 3 and 4 of the last lap to beat him.
And you had Kyle Busch.
Yeah, but regardless, I mean, a second-place finish and
a
whatnot.
Great win, yeah.
But
and that was classic NASCAR.
For teammates.
Doesn't matter if it's your teammate, you got to move him to get the win.
And and that's, when everybody starts talking about all this blocking and stuff, are you guys nuts? Have you ever met these drivers and the ego these guys have?
Yeah.
They think everybody else on the track is driving around in a grocery store parking lot except them. And it don't matter if he's 10 laps down,
Yeah.
That's what they think they're doing.
Other news in NASCAR, Monster Energy and NASCAR announced they have renewed their contract for the entitlement sponsorship of the Cup Series through the 2019 season. But NASCAR competition director, I can't remember exactly who said it, but I believe it was Steve McDonald said they do not expect to seek a entitlement sponsor for the 2020 season and beyond. And I think this is a smart move for NASCAR. While people are going to jump on board and say this is just an excuse that they can't find a sponsor, they're not getting the money they wanted to, yada, 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 I think an entitlement sponsor really handcuffs the sport because Monster Energy is the official soft drink of NASCAR. And companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, if they ever exited the sport, can never come back in as long as Monster Energy is the title sponsor. Because we saw this with Sprint when Sprint came in, or
the
Nextel.
grandfather rights.
When Nextel came in, there was a lot of cellular companies that were already in.
Alltel was in there. Verizon was in there.
But once they left, they weren't able to get back in because there's an exclusivity clause when you're the title sponsor of the series.
Which, when you're paying $75 million a year, what Nextel was paying, you expect a little protection like that.
Right, and I think NASCAR has said, you know what, we're going to be done with the entitlement sponsorship. And again, I'm kind of happy because I'm tired of what I really don't want to do is every couple of years go, okay, all right, it's February, and I got to remember now, it's the NASCAR series? You don't want to stop and think about it. You got to brand it as one thing, and it's in 2020 and beyond. It's going to be the NASCAR Cup Series. That's it. There's going to be no more entitlement sponsorship.
Well, now you got to be careful there because if somebody comes along and offers them the same type of money that Monster Energy was paying, you might see them go ahead and pick up a sponsor. So, as of right now, they say they're not going to actively seek one.
I think what they would do in that situation, and you're right, there's probably one of those situations out there where they would say, I'll cash that check tomorrow.
Exactly.
But I think what they would say is, how about instead of paying us $75 million for however many years, why don't you spread it out over these couple of tracks in certain areas that you're trying to improve your exposure to? It doesn't make sense for you to spend that much money nationally when you can centralize it at these tracks. Maybe with these teams, they can work out a couple of different things.
Well, I don't see NASCAR going quite about it that way. But if somebody approaches them and said, we would like to, become a sponsor with NASCAR, again, they've gone a long ways to where they're well under $1 million now with Monster, compared to what they were with Nextel. They and that's what they've said, is they want to work with the race team, or not teams, tracks, excuse me. So, yeah, if somebody came in, and you might see Monster go that route.
Yeah.
Now, 15 years ago, it still cost $1 million to have your name on the front of a race.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not that now, but I don't know what it is. And the only reason I know that is because I was working the Busch All-Star Tour and stuff, and we were connected with the people at Good Sense, the guy that started the company and everything, and he had one of his nephews that worked races with us and whatnot. But he would come and talk to us, and, was pretty straight with everything. And when he had signed up, because he's out of the Kansas City area, he signed up to sponsor the race in Kansas City, to have it the Good Sense 500 or 400, whatever they had. And this was like in 2002 or 2003. And he said that I don't remember if it was ESPN at the time that was going to televise that race, but they contacted him after they found out he was the title sponsor for the race and wanted $1 million to mention his name on TV.
Yeah.
They said, you'll have all the signs at the races and all that stuff, but we're not going to talk about you unless you pay us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
it's, the ESPN's got to get theirs too.
Yeah, but ESPN is no longer in the sport, and there might be a reason for that.
They couldn't get the teams, whatever. It's. I like what NASCAR's doing here, because it also, when they've got an official sponsor of whatever, it restricts what the tracks can do and what the teams can do. So I think it's a smart move. I think it's a smart move to say, you know what, and we're not going to hassle with it anymore. If somebody comes to us and wants to sponsor us, we'll work with them on something that will tailor fit them rather than just crowbarring an entitlement sponsor in there.
We're going to keep Busch Beer for a few years now as the Pole Award.
Yep.
And Busch was a big sponsor for a long, 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 long time. When they kind of stepped back for a little bit and regrouped, it opened the door. You've had a couple other people come through there. We had Coors Light for a while and whatnot. But, it is going to be a good thing for the sport if it works out like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
If nobody comes in and decides to put any more money into these racetracks, you don't know what's going to happen. But I expect you'll see some localized participation, especially now with the monster explosion type deal of like craft beers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Couldn't you just see Sam Adams jumping all over, New Hampshire, Loudon, New Hampshire? That's the only track right next to home for them, but it's got to be within a couple hundred miles of their factory.
Absolutely.
We've got the new beer in Kansas City, that we actually met the owner when he was doing some sponsoring down there with the 63 team.
Yep.
I could see them coming on board, and they don't want to go nationwide. Yeah. They want to be a localized beer thing.
It doesn't make sense for them. I mean, if for like Ying Ying Lager, there are certain states that you cannot get that beer in, but they're a sponsor of RCR. They sponsor that car a little bit, but they only sponsor it when it's in states that it can be distributed in. It makes no sense that if Yingling Light Lager can't be distributed in Nebraska and NASCAR has a race in Nebraska, for them to sponsor that race, because the fans that go there and hear all about this beer can't buy it.
Exactly.
So it's a smart move that NASCAR is trying out a new model too. Last point I wanted to get to, some more news that had rolled its way through the headlines this week. Tony Stewart and the Kevin Ward family have seemingly come to a settlement, although we're not completely done yet. They have settled out of court, and they have filed paperwork for confidentiality to end the litigation and the judgment. Now, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about on this, so we're going to leave it at I mean, if you want to obviously give in your opinion, go ahead.
The silly part about this is you've got two sides that have been fighting for 4 years now, and they finally said, okay, we're done. Tony's going to write us a check, whatever that is. We're not going to tell the public, and we're going our separate ways. Yeah. And the court system said, no, you're not.
Yeah. The court system wants to look at this and make sure that one person's not getting hosed over. And really what we've got to do, we got to get Craig Kelly in here. He's the greatest lawyer that we know, and he'll be able to kind of clarify this a little bit better for us. But it seems like this is coming to an end. They've reached an agreement to end the lawsuit and settle out of court. But the really funny part about this is that in all of the paperwork that they filed with the judge, it mentions nothing about confidentiality. both parties can still continue to talk about their side of what happened. And you know what that makes me think? The Ward family's about to write a book.
Well, that could very well be. And I'll tell you one thing that you're never going to hear is Tony Stewart's side saying, I did something wrong.
Yeah. I
see this, and I think Craig Kelly would agree, and I just heard him say it before, is that they're at the point now where Tony knows it's going to cost him $1 million in lawyer's fees to fight this.
Yeah.
So he just said, instead of paying them, I'll pay it to you.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yep. You know, in the way I feel like why Tony will probably never talk about this is that for this boiling it down, and I apologize if I insult anybody by this, but I see it the same as running over an animal on your vehicle. You're driving down the road, and all of a sudden something darts out, and you don't have time to react, and you run it over. You still feel bad because you ended something's life.
Absolutely.
There's nothing you can do about it.
I guarantee he has nightmares about this.
I believe 100% he had no idea Kevin was there, and that he might have felt something after it was over with. But he still feels horribly guilty that that Kevin died, and it's got to kill. This just got to tear him up inside, and it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever happened, we'll never know. We will never know. And even if Tony comes out and gives his side of the story, heartbeat for heartbeat, there's going to be people that don't believe him, and there's going to be people who believe him. And there's always going to be this, well, he knew, okay, I got my opinion, you got yours. We've been fighting about it for 4 years. Now the family's finally going to be able to just walk away, and maybe we could be done with this. But with that non-confidentiality thing, I just have a feeling that the Ward family has a book they've been writing on their side of the story. And it doesn't matter what it says.
Movie rights, whatever.
People are going to buy it. And they're going to make some more money off of it, and that's, whatever it is. Maybe that was a part of the agreement that they could write a book, and then Tony didn't have to write him as big of a check.
Well, I'm glad the thing is almost over,
yeah.
And we'll know. And I don't remember when that court date was, or if they actually put the date in. But It was, I don't expect it. I want to say it was in the first week of May or something. But so it's going to be a few more weeks yet before the end finally comes. Hopefully the end finally comes, and the court says, oh, no, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And the court could do that.
Yeah.
But usually when the settlement's reached out of court and all they want to do, and like I said, all we want to do is drop the lawsuit, and they won't let them. I just don't understand it. Never will.
That's why we got to get Craig in here, because he probably knows a reason why the judge is doing this. There's got to be a good reason. That's the only thing I can think of.
Unless they want to just make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Right.
But I do have one more item, because you said that was our last item.
Oh, what did I miss?
It's been out there for several weeks now that the King is auctioning off all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Everybody thinks they're broke. They got no cash flow. Da-da-da-da-da. Noah Smithfield behind them, they got some cash flow, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
And STP is still there, longtime supporter. But he's, doing some of his personal stuff that he's auctioning off. And obviously, the article I read said, Kyle doesn't want it, none of the kids want it.
Mm-hmm.
His brother doesn't want it. So what's he going to do with it? He's up there in age. He's not a young man. But the interesting one is a new thing was added to that auction, and it happens to be the 43 car from Daytona 500 this year that ran second.
Wow. They're selling that car?
On auction.
Why wouldn't they keep it?
I don't know.
It ran second. You've got a couple of super speedways coming up. Keep the car. Sell it at the end of the year.
And maybe that's stipulation in the auction. I didn't go to the auction and read it, but it was. I just saw it on Facebook either today or yesterday, and that another thing come up with that auction page. And
what do you think that'll go for? Just wild speculation.
Oh, I have no idea.
Couple $100,000.
I'm thinking at a minimum. I mean,
if Richard would have driven it, I think it would have pulled $300,000-$400,000.
Oh, if Richard would have driven it?
Yeah. But Darrell Wallace drove it. He is obviously not the King. He doesn't have the name, the heritage, the pull.
Yeah, but this might be the best career finish he ever has.
Yeah.
20 years from now, if you turn out and you've got the best career finish car that, Bubba Wallace ever had, or if Bubba goes on to be a champion and you had the best career finish from his rookie year, there's so many ways that this can become a very valuable car. to what it'll go to now, I mean, I'm thinking a minimum is, $250,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just depends on the collector that's going to buy it. Ray Everham's got some really neat stuff.
Yeah.
So if something like his goes into his collection, it could be $500,000, or better.
Yeah. To your point with that, I'm kind of going through this on a much, much smaller scale where we're spring cleaning.
We
got
to take some zeros out of there.
Yeah. Well, we're going through this at our house where we're doing some spring cleaning and getting rid of a bunch of stuff. I find stuff through the radio industry, and people give me stuff. I get stuff from clients, racing, collectibles, that kind of stuff. That I'm going through it and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't need this program from Knoxville for the Knoxville Nationals from 2015, the first year I went. I don't need it. I mean, there's nothing special about it. If I'd had it signed by the race winner, that might have been something, but, and you toss it in the trash. For him, he doesn't toss it in the trash. He says, you know what, I owned it. Somebody may want it. I might as well offer it up and sell it.
Well, I doubt you're going to find a 2015 Knoxville program in that auction. But
that was my example, though, is that I come when I'm cleaning out my stuff, and he's probably doing the same thing. He's just like, I've got all this stuff that I've been collecting. In 5-10 years, I'm not going to be here anymore. My kids don't want it, so I might as well offer it up to people that would actually want it.
Well, that's the key. Now, see, if some of his grandkids, or something like that, I mean, had come up to him and say, "Grandpa, I want that."
Yeah.
It's probably theirs.
Right.
And it's the same thing with you. You don't have kids yet, so, like me, so we really can't go through that part of the phase. But, you might want to just go ahead and seriously, if you've got something like a Knoxville program, you might want to throw it out there and see if somebody wants it.
Yeah. I might as well.
Give it away, I mean, I've done that with some stuff before, I don't use it, and it's like other stuff you keep and think you're going to set this on the shelf and use it next week.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, you're over there knocking the dust on it going, why did I ever keep this?
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's a nut or a bolt, some oddball deal.
Yeah.
I've got a whole garage of that stuff.
And, the thing is, when you throw it away, you need
it next week.
You're like, gosh, darn it.
I just had that.
All right, that's going to do it for turn number 1. Coming up in turn number 2, Stan Cisar to preview Eagle Raceway schedule, then PJ Pederson just around the corner in turn 3 to preview the Crawford County Speedway schedule, and then turn number 4 will wrap up the show by previewing today's race at Bristol, next Saturday's race at Richmond, and we've got to talk about the Pick'ems contest. The 5-week contest is going to get wrapped up next Saturday night. Only 2 more races to go. Somebody's going to be crowned winner of that contest and is headed down to Kansas Speedway with us.
Yeah, and it's we've had contests end at Talladega before, but ending with back-to-back short tracks is just as good.
That's going to be fun. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. Stan Cisar just around the corner here on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
This week's young gun on the front stretch is 15-year-old Cole Rocket Man Wayman. Cole is starting his 7th full season as a dirt track driver. After cutting his teeth in the go-kart ranks, Cole's been moving up the division classes, racing stock cars, mini sprints, sport mods, and modifieds. In 2016, Cole won the Valley Speedway Championship in the E-Mod class with 6 wins on the season. Cole is coming off another great season, picking up a feature win, a Rookie of the Year honor, and finishing 9th all at Eagle Raceway. He followed it up with an 8th place finish at Beatrice Speedway. Cole has big plans for 2018 as he is eyeing top 5 points finishes at Beatrice and Eagle, while also going for IMCA National Stock Car Rookie of the Year honors, driving the number 24 in honor of the late Don Moore. Keep your eye out for the Independence Equipment Company, Lance Built Graphics, Elite Welding, and Fab number 24 Stock Car and number 18 Sport Mod, driven by this week's Young Gun, Rocket Man Cole Wayman. This week's Young Gun has been presented by I-80 Speedway, home of the Silver Dollar Nationals.
The 2018 season is just around the corner for I-80 Speedway. The Go 50 and Silver Dollar Nationals featuring the Lucas Oil late models, Charlie Clark Memorial, Midwest Fall Brawl, I-80 Dirt Classic, and of course the best weekly racing featuring 7 NASCAR classes. I80Speedway.com for race dates and tickets. Lock up your season passes by calling Lee at 342-3453. We'll see you April 6th for the Spring Meltdown featuring the Nebraska 360s and the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series.
The NHRA Mellow Yellow Track Racing
Racing Series, the world's fastest motorsport, is returning to Topeka.
339 miles an hour.
NHRA's best top fuel dragster and funny car drivers are ready to face off at the Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, May 18th through 20th. Kids 12 and under are free in general admission, and every ticket's on Pit Pass. So bring the family, meet the drivers, and be part of the action. Get tickets early and save at NHRA.com or call 800-884-NHRA.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Well, you heard her. The NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Series roars to life at the Heartland Park Topeka for the Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, presented by Minties, May 18th, 19th, and 20th. 3 big days of all the drag strip action your race love and heart can handle is just a click or call away. NHRA.com/tickets or 800-884-NHRA. Again, NHRA.com/tickets or 800-884-NHRA. A couple of weeks ago, Dirk and I sat down at the Precise Racing Products Open House, had a conversation with a lot of different drivers and promoters, and one of those was none other than the voice of the Speedway, Dan Cisar, who joined us to preview the 2018 race schedule. I've had to do a little bit of editing to this because the schedule has been revised due to Mother Nature, but as of right now, Sunday morning when we air this show, Eagle has rescheduled their open house, free for all classes, for this coming Thursday, April 19th, and then the season will kick off that coming Friday, and that's where we sat down and started talking to Stan. So again, the open house that was originally scheduled for yesterday has been rescheduled for April 19th, and then the season opener kicks off Friday.
The first actual Auto Transmatic presents the Icebreaker Challenge. That's Modified Mania, 2 big nights of modified racing action going on there. On Friday night, they're going to have the Modifieds, B-Modifieds, Hobby Stocks, and the Sport Compacts. And then on Saturday night, the Modifieds for their championship feature, Sport Modifieds stock cars are going to be added that night, as well as the Race Saver IMCA sprint cars. And taking a look at some of the payouts, you know, it's going to be $1,000 to win for the Modifieds on Friday night. It'll be $2,000 to win on Saturday night. And Race Saver IMCA sprint cars paying $1,000 to win. Sport Modifieds pay $500 to win. And in the modified and sport modified divisions, if you the twice as nice bonus, an extra $1,000 if you can sweep the weekend and pick up the win on Friday and Saturday night. So that's kind of the race that kind of kicks off the thing for Eagle every year, the Icebreaker Challenge. Following Saturday night on April 28th, Nebraska Lottery presenting Ante Up, and you're going to see this pattern. Everything's kind of having to do with gambling and the Lucky 55 racing season. That's going to be the season opener, first points race for all the classes for the weekly series.
And that'll wrap up for April?
That wraps up the first month. Saturday, May the 5th, Runner Freight and Colby Ridge present the Royal Flush Rush, if you can imagine that. Sam Kids Club. Tough to say. They're going to have a sugar rush. Sam's Kids Club providing there'll be a free candy on the front stretch. And Pepsi and Lincoln Stars present the Queen of Hearts Ladies Night. That's the Mother's Day tribute coming up on Saturday night, May the 12th. Lincoln Salt Dogs present Fever 55. And that's going to be Armed Forces Night. All the members of the Armed Services, I believe, free admission with your military ID. And then Saturday, the 26th, getting close to Memorial Day there, Great Clips and Purdue University Global present the Memorial Day Lucky Ganza. It's a driver appreciation night, and that's the one where every driver receives, I believe, 100 free tickets and usually packs the house, probably 5,000-6,000 people in the place that night, free admission. And the tickets must be given out, you know, to their to the fans by their favorite drivers, you know. So,
Stu, what's your number on that? How many of those tickets you usually give away for Fan Appreciation Night?
Oh, usually anywhere from 50 on up to probably about a couple hundred, actually. Yeah. I try and get as many as I can.
Get more, yeah. And they're always available, it seems like, because some...
Yeah. You got to get there early to be able to park in the parking lot.
Oh, for sure. And it's always fun to sit in the pits after the races are over and just watch the cars. We know we're not leaving for a couple hours.
Yeah. Is there usually a contest for the driver that can bring in the most fans?
I think last year there was a free pit passes, and I think wasn't there a power washer?
Yeah, a power washer for the one that gave out the most. Hotsy power washer. Not
good one.
Not the good
not
power
a cheap
washer.
One. It was expensive.
Yeah, but first time Roger did the fan appreciation night. I remember it was Kenny Schrader night, and they had probably I'd say maybe over 7,000 people.
Wow.
And the Highway Patrol finally quit letting people drive in off of Highway 34 and into the entrance, because it wasn't the matter of fact that they couldn't have crammed more people onto the property. They said your bathrooms aren't up to code enough to service that many people. And Schrader couldn't believe it. He said I've never seen that many people at a short track. He said this is something we're going to be doing down at Peevely, Yeah. But that's always a great night. And the nice thing about it is it gets some people that may not go to the races on a regular basis down there for that first time. And usually the races are pretty entertaining down at Eagle, and if they see that first one, they're going to be back.
It's such an addicting sport. Like you said, once you see it once and you figure out how it works, you'll be back 2-3 times a year after that.
Yeah, Robbie's deal, infected.
Yeah, infected.
Yeah. On Saturday night, June the 2nd, Hormel presents the Double Down Duel. Runner Freight once again presents Color Me Lucky, the Kids Color Rush run. That's on Saturday, June the 9th. Saturday night, June 16th, Pepsi presents the Poker Face Chase, Father's Day tribute, and the Dad's Drag Races, and we did that last year. And Colby Ridge and Purdue University Global, once again, Junior Fan Club Jackpot Night. They got $1,000 double nickel dash. I think they're going to be throwing nickels out on the front stretch, and $1,000 worth of nickels. And you'd be amazed at how short of a time it takes the kids to clean up that front stretch. But speaking of HOTSY presents the Freedom Fest 55. That's on Saturday, June the 30th. That's the fireworks extravaganza, service appreciation night for all the first responders, fire and rescue, police, and those people all get in. Hoosier Racing and Budweiser presenting the Casino Classic on the 7th of July. Nebraska Lottery and Great Clips, Colby Ridge, Kids Night Back, Blackjack Bonanza. That's a bike giveaway night, the annual bike giveaway. We probably well over 200 bikes, I think, at the very minimum given away on a yearly basis on that night, and that's one the kids are always looking forward to. The Lucky 55 night on Saturday, July the 28th. Ages 55 and over get a free grandstand admission, and they're also going to play bingo that night. Saturday, August 4th, Runner Freight presents the High Roller Rumble. Colby Ridge and Purdue University Global once again presents Roll the Dice 55. That's Junior Fan Club and Scout Night. That's the night the kids get car rides. They get to take a lap around Eagle Raceway with their favorite drivers. Yep. Rotella's Italian Bakery. We talk about that as being one of our favorite sponsors. Presents the High Stakes Showdown on August the 18th. On the 25th, the Fold'em finale. That's the season finale for the weekly points. That everything comes down to that final night on the 25th, and it's the prelude to the Sprint Nationals. Big weekend comes up the next weekend, and we can talk to Stu a little bit later on. He's had some pretty good success down there last few years. The following week, Labor Day weekend, the big one at Eagle Raceway, the Race Saver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals. Doing something a little bit different this year. It's going to be a free practice night and pre-tech for all the guys coming in from out of town. They're also going to do Jake Ida Memorial Race of Champion qualifying. The qualifying heats are going to be held on the Thursday practice night this year because Friday night just got to be such a long program. Yeah. After doing 15 heats and 15 features, then to do another 8 or so qualifying heats for the Jake Ida, we figured we could make it a little bit more of an efficiently run program if we give those guys, and then plus it gives those guys something to look forward to other than just practice on that practice night. Of course, 2 qualifying nights, Friday, August 31st, and Saturday, September 1st. We'll qualify the fastest 18 cars for that 27-car feature on those 2 nights. And then on Sunday, September 2nd, the Race Saver Sprint Nationals Championship night. What an event last year. And I just have to say it was an event because it was more than just a race. I mean, the whole atmosphere, and we had the biggest crowd in the history of the Nationals last year. And what a race those guys put on last year. It was a great deal. We'll crown Miss Eagle Raceway. That's the one we all look forward to all year long. And then to close out the season, Hoosier Racing Tire presenting the annual Nebraska Cup. That'll feature the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Racing Series, Good Old Time Racing Association, Midwest Classic Stock Cars, and the Race Saver IMCA Sprint Cars.
A lot of dates on the schedule. Stu, how many of you plan on hitting?
Well, I think we're going to try and hit all of them at Eagle.
Yeah.
We got a heck of a schedule built between the 2 cars, and then being brought on with Love Motorsports this year, driving their 305 car. So we'll kind of save my car back for the special events and stuff like that as a plan. But like Stan was saying, that the Super Nationals, that's more of an event now than it is a race. It's pretty cool to see it turn into what it's turned into in the last couple of years.
And you were involved in an event last year. You know, it was the first annual event last year, and I know it's kind of slow to get started, but maybe in scheduling this year, getting with Racine and those guys, getting it more on the radar for 2018, and that's your charity golf tournament that you have.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Sometimes it slips my mind when we start talking about racing that we do other events and stuff outside of that. But yeah, last year we had a great turnout. We raised almost $5,000. And like Stan was saying, I got to work a little bit better with Racine and try and get, now that maybe we're doing those qualifying heats on a Thursday, that'll free up some people's time, maybe Friday morning or something like that. We can do this golf tournament because it is a great deal and it benefits a huge foundation that helps people that get hurt.
The Steve King Foundation.
The Steve King Foundation was created when Steve was tragically killed at Knoxville, and it's a foundation that reaches out to us drivers and the families that are involved when we get hurt. You know, when I got hurt, I couldn't imagine what my medical bills were, almost $300,000
Jeez.
And you know, between my insurance and between the Steve King Foundation throwing some healthy chunks of money at that deal, it helped out a ton. It freed up a lot. I was able to pay my bills, my monthly bills, my living.
Yeah.
You know, because at the time I couldn't work. I think I was off for almost 6-7 months on that deal.
Holy cow.
And, you know, the Steve King Foundation, I think their totals that they have raised and helped out drivers in need has reached upwards of almost $400,000 that they've donated to families and racers that get hurt. Then, you know, some of us do this for a living. We don't have another income.
Yeah. And
they step in and they help us out. And the only way that they do it is off of events like this or off of, you know, just donations. But the events are kind of fun. You know, we did a golf tournament last year, like Stan was saying, and he did all the promotion on the.
I think the Friday night or Friday morning scenario, I mean, people are in town. And the other thing about it is going back into the Stone Age when we used to have the Sunset Speedway, the original Cornhusker Classic was out at Sunset Speedway, and every year they had a golf tournament that everybody looked forward to, and it was on the Friday morning previous of the
and I think you're throwing that up there just now. I think that's what we're going to try and do. We can't do it on Saturday because of Husker football's home game. Can't do it on, you know, we had to do it last year on Sunday, but this year we don't want to conflict with the dodgeball tournament and everything else. I think that Friday morning is going to work great because we had a good turnout last year with the amount of teams and people that showed up for the silent auction stuff. But I think that Friday deal will be way better.
I think there's a lot of race fans that are avid golfers that are going to show up just to be playing in the same tournament as the drivers and the crews and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. We had a few, and you know, I had people contacting me after the deal was over that want to do it. And drivers, Russ Hall, or Ryan Hall out of Texas with the Valvoline team. They wanted to do it, but they had to run through the alphabet on Sunday. So I think Friday morning, that's the best bet right there.
Is that open to the public?
Yeah, the public can come out and hang out with us. I think they had some golf carts that they could ride around on and kind of watch us drivers try and play golf because we're not very good at it.
Let us, Dirk and I know how we can help out. I cannot golf, so I'm not going to jump in, but I'll drive people around. I'll be the beer girl, whatever you need.
Do that. Well, we had water. I had my wife Kendall and Robin, our team owner. She ran around on golf carts and was throwing water bottles out to people that Speedway Motors was kind enough to donate. But we might have to get the beer cart involved now that it's on Friday.
Yeah,
and hopefully, you know, I won't have to run. We'll run that night. But you know, I wanted to do it on Saturday, so if I was locked in, some of us drivers could enjoy the golf tournament on Saturday.
If we started early enough in the morning, then you know you could be done.
Yeah. You could, if you're done playing at 11 or noon, you're good to go. You got a couple hours there.
Yep. Of course, let's see. I was a little bit busy. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think I was busy that Friday this year. I wouldn't have been able to make it.
I think you were wrapping a car or building a car.
Building a car, I think.
Yeah. Had some bad luck on practice night for sure.
We'll call it that. Let's get back
Let's leave it there.
So that does it for the 2018 Eagle Raceway season preview here in turn number 2. Again, eagleraceway.com for more tickets and information. The original plan for the open house that was supposed to be yesterday at Eagle Raceway has been rescheduled for this Thursday, and it's free for all classes. So you can get out there and do a little bit of test and tune on your car if you plan on racing at Eagle Raceway anytime this year. We're going to take a break. We're coming back in turn number 3. We'll sit down with PJ Pederson to preview the Crawford County Speedway schedule for 2018. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Night Race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 3, brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Tickets for the Kansas 400 Saturday night race at Kansas Speedway are on sale now. 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. If you're going to go down for the Saturday night race, you might as well double down. I mean, it is next to a casino, so you might as well double down and go to the Camper World Truck Series race on Friday night. Again, 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Ford powerhouse is going to have at the 1.5 mile tracks, or if Kansas will be the track that Chevy will get back on board. 866-460-RACE or kansasspeedway.com. So thanks to our friends at Tuffy's Tire and Auto in Bellevue, Jim Howe and all of his great workers over there, we were able to set up at his booth at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Auto Show at the CenturyLink Center a couple of weeks ago. We got some great interviews about the Logan Hill Climb that is going on April 22nd, and we got some great interviews with some track announcers, including PJ Pederson, who's going to be joining us now in turn number 3 and talking about the Crawford County Speedway schedule a couple of weeks ago. Now, Crawford County was supposed to kick off their season a few weeks ago, but Mother Nature intervened.
Supposed to be our second annual spring fling. You know, last year, our first annual, we got rained out on Friday. We got all the way through the heats, halfway through the second feature, got rained out. This time, we just got kind of to the point where, with Mother Nature, we weren't going to be able to get it going. But not all hope is lost on spring fling. IMCA is actually going to let us condense it to a one-day show. Practice on Thursday, the 19th of April, and Friday, the 20th of April, we're actually still going to have that spring fling. And if we have anywhere near the caliber of drivers we had last year, it's going to be an amazing show.
Well, races this time of year are always tricky, and really races right up until about the end of May, getting into June, it's a crapshoot because it could be cold, it could be hot, it could be raining, it could be snowing. And it could be the apocalypse. You just never really know.
So you're saying Mother Nature's fickle. Is that what you're saying?
Well, everybody that's gone down to Beatrice for Spring Nationals knows that. Unfortunately, I don't know what deal with the devil IMCA has made as far as like Marshalltown and Boone and Vinton and them. But they always seem to get their frostbusters in for some reason. Mother Nature shines on them. The rest of us over here, not so much.
Maybe you just need to work on that deal with the devil. Turn around 3 times and commit your soul, and he'll appear, apparently.
We volunteer PJ to get in there and negotiate for us.
I will find a way to take my big frame and put it on my head against the wall and cluck like a chicken if the devil will let us race.
Maybe the problem is you don't have enough soul left for the devil to be interested.
That could possibly be it.
I know you've sold portions of it to get some nice exposure stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, looks like you guys have an enduro race coming up April 7th to kick things off of your 2018 schedule.
Yeah, it's something that the Supreme Enduro Series, Jamie and Tawana Songer, have been having for the last couple of years. I've been doing a lot of their announcing. It's either myself or Jerry Van Sickle. And this year it sounds like I'm going to be doing the bulk of it. We've been trying to get them into Denison because these enduros are normally 200 laps, 1,500 to win. They're a lot of fun. This year, Jamie is throwing the proverbial Hail Mary. 400 laps, $10,000 goes home to the winner. I know right now there's a lot of guys in Oklahoma and Texas. All they do is they follow the enduro circuit like you'd see the guys up here running the sprint car, late model circuit, whatever. A lot of them are coming up. The Smith boys, who are always a threat from Lake City, they're coming. We got a lot of good drivers that are coming to this deal.
That's an interesting deal. I mean, a 400-lap race. I mean, Dirk, give me an idea of what a fuel cell will hold for one of these classes. I mean, because we talk about a green flag run at some of these NASCAR tracks lasts about 50, 55 laps. What would a fuel cell run for one of these enduro races?
Well, I don't know what the rules specifically state, but I mean, you can get 40 and 50-gallon fuel cells.
Okay.
So, you got all the time in the world. And, I mean, it's a car engine that gets 18, 20, 22 miles a gallon. It's not a race engine getting 4 miles
You're not going to be fueling every 30, 40 laps.
No.
Well, actually, I'm going to surprise you guys on this one because they are, for the most part, going to have race engines. 99% of them are going to run 22-gallon cells, and we're going to have a halfway break at lap 200 like we normally would. All the 200-lappers we've run, there are guys that can run the whole 200 laps and still have fuel left over.
Yeah.
I remember up in Fort Dodge, the first one I ever announced 2 years ago, Dave Smith from Lake City ran, I believe it was Britt, Iowa, in the stock car class with his IMCA car on Saturday night, turned around, went to Fort Dodge, added a little more weight, and won 200-lap enduro there and still had fuel left in a 22-gallon cell.
Holy cow.
But see, that's those rules to be able to run a stock car in an enduro race are unusual rules. Normally you can't run a car like that. But, they allow you to pretty much do what you want because most of them will have a very cheap or inexpensive claim rule.
Well, and the thing is, we run the same rules as the Lone Star 600, which is the big deal down in Texas. It's, other than a few safety rules and a couple other small things, it's run what you brung. I mean, we've had guys in two-person cruisers. We've had guys in sport mods, late models. Even Chris Abelson, a couple races last year, drove a two-seat modified in this thing. So it's pretty much wide-open rules. Most guys will run the stock car, hobby stock format, but it's a pretty much wide open.
And then things start to kick off. You have your practice on April 19th, like we talked about a little bit ago, and then the spring fling kicks off on the 20th. Figure eights returning and train races on the 22nd, and then practice for the classes. Let's talk a little bit about the classes that are going to be racing weekly at Crawford County this year.
Well, we're going to do the same classes as we always have. We're going to have the IMCA Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mod Stock Cars, and Modifieds. And then, of course, for our opening on May 4th, we are going to have the Malvern Bank SLMR Series coming back with us again. So can't wait to work with Anthony Ainsley. Yeah. It's always a party when he comes up on our first opening night of the year. And he and I just have a ball. So it's going to be fun. And the racing, I mean, you look at 2 years ago, Kyle Burke had to wait until 2 laps to go to get his win. Last year, you had all the drama with his trailer burning down, and then you had Jesse sobbing, and what we didn't know yet was going to be his farewell season.
Yeah.
Last lap, last corner pass for his first ever SLMR win. Yeah. It over Bill Layton. I mean, it's just amazing action with those late models.
I mean, I've been very partial to that track. Because I got to, that was where I cut my teeth with doing the announcing, and God knows I'm still cutting my teeth, but it's
and your lips.
It's so maybe people want to say I'm a little bit of a homer, but I think it's probably top 4 tracks in the area. Because it has an amazing structure to it, and I'm not smart enough and haven't been doing this long enough to know what exactly makes it. But if that track has a good track prep crew, the fans are in for a treat, and they do. They've had a really good history at Crawford County Speedway of a good track prep crew that have done a really good job of putting the track together to give the drivers a track to be able to race on, and that's, I mean, they've done a phenomenal job. I absolutely love that track.
You know, Junior Reitz 2 years ago took it over, and then Bob Steyert, who drives the 14S in the stock car class, came in to start helping And then last year, Bob pretty much took it over himself, and we only had one night where there was a lot of rain and the track was a little wavy, but the big holes and everything else were gone. The track was glass smooth most of the time. Bob's coming back. Thank goodness for that. It sounds like he might be lending himself out to Shelby County a little bit to get them kind of back in shape, but we couldn't do it without Bob and his knowledge. I mean, it's amazing.
It's really amazing how integral, how important a good track prep crew can be, because I mean, we could go on for hours about this, about how holes, ruts, a bad surface, and drivers will get frustrated one week, they'll get mad a second week, and then they'll be gone after 3 weeks. And so it's integral to have a good track prep crew, and I think Crawford knocks it out of the park.
I've seen tracks, not necessarily Crawford, but other tracks where you've got holes that literally someone takes a tall boy Bud Light can and then puts a 20-ounce bottle on top of it, and the cap on the bottle is just barely touching the top of the rut.
Insane.
I mean, it's a car swallower. I do know this year we are going to bring back the vintage cars a few times. It looks like on May 25th and then again on the 29th of June. And the biggest thing is every year we've tried to take the weekend of Silver Dollar Nationals off. Unfortunately, it's always been the same week as the Crawford County Fair. This year, for whatever reason, the Fair Board has moved the fair back a week, so I'm going to be down there joining you guys at Silver Dollar Nationals, because that is the 1 week where we are not racing. We are shut down, and I'm finally going to get to go down and see Silver Dollar Nationals, so I'm excited.
Well, bring a light shirt.
I'm planning on it.
It gets a little toasty during the Silver Dollar Nationals. It's about the one thing you can count on.
Well, you've been up in that booth before in 90-degree weather. You know how toasty it is anyway up at Crawford County. So
I'm just gonna
light shirts are a must.
I'm going to haul a block of ice up there this year, because that air conditioner does not cut it in the middle of summer. Plus, all the hot air that comes out of all the announcers, there's no way an air conditioner can keep up.
Exactly.
Good schedule lined up for you guys again. 6 or 7 classes.
Just the 5 classes.
Just 5 classes.
But
okay.
The opening night, obviously, we'll have the Malvern Bank SLMRs with us. So
great class. Excuse me. Good support class. They're bringing their support class. Good lead class to kick off the 2018 season.
Absolutely.
Be careful with that block of ice you take up there.
Yeah.
Because with all your hot air and all that cold air, you could have a tornado in there.
That's a good point. I am a tornado wherever I go. I mean, we could just keep going with these jokes all day long.
You do destroy grain bins, so.
And, the thing about it is there's a lot of things that the fans are going to notice, subtle changes. We were lucky enough that Toby Cruz and Jerry Van Sickle put together last November the first ever short track seminar. And myself, Kara Webb-Munson, which is our one of our race directors, Michelle Sacco, who's another race director, and Rayleigh Hildebrand went over to this deal. Mm-hmm. I swear, Kara had a blank legal pad at the start. By the time it was all said and done, there were at least 7 pages front to back full of great ideas.
Yeah.
There were tracks represented from Kansas, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, and just throwing stuff around. So I think there's a lot of things the fans are going to come in, and it's not going to be noticeable right away, but they're going to finally notice it.
Big races coming up for you guys. You mentioned May 25th, the vintage cars, and then the next week on June 2nd, going to have a demo derby.
Yes, we normally, the last couple of years, have had a 2-night demo derby. This year, it's going to be a 1-night derby, and we're switching promotional companies. So, not that there was anything really bad with the previous promotional company. We just kind of wanted to tighten the show up a little bit, kind of see if maybe some of the complaints we had last year we can get away with, but still have a great time.
Driver Appreciation Night on June 15th. That's kind of a staple in the racing community.
I know we're actually going to have the drivers come over at intermission quite a bit.
Yeah.
And before I forget, I got to throw this in just kind of off topic. We're actually starting something new for the kids up there. Mm-hmm. And we've already got our first one for spring fling picked. The kids will put their name in a hat, and then right before intermission, we're going to draw a kid's name out. They get to be our junior flagmen up in the flag stand, flagging the compact feature every week.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
That's something you need to get involved in.
Being a flagman?
Yes, a junior flagman.
That's a terrible idea. I would drop the flag on the track.
That's my point.
I mean, I did drop a microphone on the track at Eagle during the restart of a feature, so
he'd be like that one guy off the movie Longest Yard. I knew I shouldn't have had that popcorn.
Yeah.
There you go.
You guys' schedule continues. You kind of sprinkle in some more demo derbies and some more vintage cars, and then you guys wrap things up. Season championship on August 3rd, and then the figure eights. No October race this year?
No, we didn't do it last year either. The board saw the success from some of the preseason specials, decided they kind of wanted to go a little different direction. Unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't work with us. Hopefully we get this one in because they would like to get in on more of the preseason stuff.
Yeah.
The October race was great, but a lot of people, their stuff's still worn out or they've already got torn apart from the season. And
the preseason, you're absolutely right. A lot of tracks start to head in that direction because everyone's got fresh equipment at the beginning of the season.
Exactly.
You get about midway through the season and you really start to see the car counts for the weekly races and any of the specials start to trickle off because guys have run out of money, they've run out of equipment, they've run out of patience, they're kind of sick and tired of doing it. So September, October events they've got to be a long staple for them to be any kind of a success.
Exactly, and that's also why my new little venture I'm in with IMCA.TV, I'm trying to get as many interviews now as I can because mid-season, drivers get owly and don't want to talk to you.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about favorites coming into the 2018 season. We were talking a little bit off the microphone that there's not a lot of changes coming as far as classes are concerned or drivers moving up, moving around. So is it going to be kind of status quo? Maybe not the best term for it, but you're still going to have the same guys fighting for the championships?
Oh, I don't know about that. It all depends, like in the compacts, it depends on Kane Malberg.
Mm-hmm.
If he runs a full season, he's going to be in it. Riley Payson is going to run a full season with us, and that kid is a chip off the old block. He's as fast as his dad used to be in the modifieds. Well, as fast as you can be in a compact, but he's going to be in it. Somebody that kind of came out and started to set the world on fire, Chris LaFoy from Audubon.
Okay.
I think he got his first ever career win. I think he's going to be in it. And then you've got Alex Davis, Colton Point, and Nick Stover. I think those are going to be the guys you're going to be looking for week after week. Hobby Stocks is going to be a lot of the same, but it's going to be so exciting because you're going to have Jeff Fink, you're going to have both Maddens, and you're going to have Jason Fusselman, the defending champ, and those guys put on the price of admission show right there.
By the way, a little bit, what's going on with Jason Cole? Is he racing or is he retired?
I've talked to one of his good friends and crew guys, and it sounds like he's still racing. He's just scaling it back because the kids are getting into a lot more stuff, and I can completely understand that.
Yep.
My daughter's getting older, starting to get in activities. He wants to be there for the kids.
Yeah.
And Mike Stapleton, he took some time off because he got a different job and wanted to be there for the boys. And now he's back running full-time. So maybe we'll see him kind of lay off a little bit for a few years, and then we're going to see the resurgence of the Mo Valley Missile.
This just kills me because he did the same thing drivers have done 100 times to me. This is it, my last year. Selling all the equipment, got it up for sale. I got guys coming and looking at it. It's just it's time to walk away. It's time to retire. It's time to be done with it. And then sure enough, when we got to the last race, he says, I may run one or two races, but it's going to be a real light schedule. Now he's got a new car. He's got sponsors on the side of it, and he's working on his schedule for 2018.
Dangerous Dale Ransom in the 2R modified from Deloitte. He has been selling everything and quitting for the last 5 years. Wild Willie Ransom in the 7W in the stock car class, he told me straight out to my face, I'm going to leave the car sitting in the weeds for this year. I'm just going to help a few other people out. Wasn't even 2 weeks later, he's got on Facebook, he's got new body panels. It's starting to look like a race car again.
How'd that work out for you there?
You see, with the drivers, you can't believe a word they say.
Yeah, well, no, if he'd have sold all his equipment, he'd probably be done.
Well,
but
you're right.
It didn't get sold, and that's because all racers, every single one of them I've ever met over 50 years of doing this, all think their parts are worth more because they won with them than when they bought them.
No. I finished 10th with this car. It's definitely worth more than an 8th place finishing car because I finished 10th in it.
Yeah. But no, kind of getting back to things, Sport Mod, Cody Thompson, I think he's going to come out. He's got his Harris car he's been running, and he has another car they're finishing up, brand new car they're working on. Jake Sacco, if he stays for the full year. Now, last year he went up to, I believe it was Farley for a couple big money shows. That kind of took him out of it a little bit. Plus, he just had so much bad luck. If he can get the bad luck worm to turn and he runs all year, he's going to be a threat. But I'll tell you right now in that Sport Mods, we're going to be hard-pressed to not see a battle like we did last year. Now, the Hobby Stocks and Denison have always been the closest going into the final night.
Mm-hmm.
Sport Mods were 1 point different between Cody Olson, who got the championship, and Tim Judd. Cody Olson had 7 wins. Tim Judd only won the season opener, but consistency got him. Those two and Cody Thompson are going to be the three I'm calling there.
Shane DeMay still racing?
He is, and actually he's doing a lot more with Harris nowadays. Him and Dave and Kyle Brown are really working together to not only help their stuff, but other customer stuff.
Good.
Shane, once he kind of gets the rust knocked off him a little bit, I think he's going to be a contender. I think Jeff Stevens is going to see a resurgence. He got win number 100 and 101 last year, driving a car that he got from his might-as-well-be future son-in-law, Nick Deal. And I think he's going to be a hot runner this year. And, of course, how can you bet against Nick Deal?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy had the championship locked up with one night to go. Stock cars, Mike Nichols is going to be the guy to beat. But last year, it was proven 3 times that Superman is beatable. Adam Clucky beat him straight up one night. A very popular win by Brian Blessington after Mike had a tire blow. And then there was a third race he lost straight up, and I can't think of who it was that beat him right off the top of my head. But when Adam beat him, it was the first time in a season and a half he had been beat at Denison.
Wow. That's just crazy, and he is lights out there. And is he still helping out with the operations?
He is. He is still on the Crawford County Speedway Racers Association board.
Good deal. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Crawford County conversation. And then you're doing some off work, doing a little bit of media relations, trying to spread the good word about dirt racing.
Yeah, you know, Barry Braun with IMCA.TV, he's always looking for different ways to help promote dirt racing, IMCA racing, and especially the drivers in the sport. He had put out, I'd say November of last year, that he had tried bringing the Dirt Nation podcast out, and it kind of got put on the back burner with other things that he had done when IMCA.TV blew up.
Yeah.
He wanted to bring it back, and he wanted some people inside racing to do it. So I am one of only 6 people in the country that is a podcaster for it. I've gotten several interviews with some of our Denison people. I spent a weekend in Sioux City, got some interviews there. I've already gotten Cheyenne Purchase and I believe it was Kelsey Joe, I can't think of her last name, the 18K sprint car from Eagle.
Kayla Joe Stoop.
Yes, there you go. Kayla Joe Stoop. I got them, hopefully get a few more. But basically, I get the audio, send it up to him. They polish up the turd and put it on the Dirt Nation page. And Dirt Nation, of course, you can get that on the IMCA.TV website, Facebook page, or on Stitcher. And mine haven't come out yet. He wants to kind of hold off until we get closer to spring fling, but it's really awesome. 10 to 15-minute interviews, unless, you know, you're interviewing Buddy Ray Jones. That one went over 33 minutes. But, I mean, it's an awesome deal, and, you know, I can't thank Barry Braun enough for allowing me to do this and showcase the great drivers we have, IMCA.
What a fun job.
It is. It really honestly is. It's the one job where I get paid to have fun.
Yeah, you get paid to talk about racing.
Yeah.
How can you complain?
You can't. And like I've always told everybody, I'm a fan first and foremost, so I'm getting paid to do what I love.
Yeah, we don't get paid.
Paid?
Wait. Dirk, did you not read the fine print?
I didn't get to read anything.
All right, so moving on. We got to go to break. Catch PJ Pederson in the announcer's booth at Crawford County Speedway. Friday night racing, IMCA sanctioned. When's your season kickoff again? I lost it.
May 4th is going to be our first official points night.
May the 4th be with you. All right, have a great 2018. Thanks for joining us, bud.
You too, guys. Thanks for having me.
The NHRA Mellow Yellow Track Racing Series, the world's fastest motorsport, is returning to Topeka.
339 miles an hour.
NHRA's best top-fueled dragster and funny car drivers are ready to face off at the Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, May 18th through 20th. Kids 12 and under are free in general admission, and every ticket's on Pit Pass. So bring the family, meet the drivers, and be part of the action. Get tickets early and save at NHRA.com or call 800-884-NHRA.
The 2018 season is just around the corner for I-80 Speedway. The Go 50 and Silver Dollar Nationals featuring the Lucas Oil Late Models, Charlie Clark Memorial, Midwest Fall Brawl, I-80 Dirt Classic, and of course the best weekly racing featuring 7 NASCAR classes. I-80Speedway.com for race dates and tickets. Lock up your season passes by calling Lee at 342-3453. We'll see you April 6th for the Spring Meltdown featuring the Nebraska 360s and the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Night Race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at KansasSpeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting.
Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 4. Just about ready to wrap this baby up. And today's turn 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Catch all the green flag action for today's Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway on Fox and PRN at noon, with the green flag set to wave at 1 o'clock. That is also when picks are due for today's race for the season-long contest and the Crewman for a Day contest, powered by Starcom Racing and presented by Rick Haven Ridge of Wealth Partners. Make sure your picks are in by 1 o'clock. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube and watch all the green flag action for today's race on Fox and PRN for the Food City 500.
Have you got the situation with Chris figured out yet?
Getting there.
Well, what I was going to say, but it's going to cost us something, but what I don't know, $100 or something, is I'd be glad to try and call Ken or Raymond or somebody and see if I can have them hook us up. But I don't want to do that unless it's a last resort, because it will cost us something.
We'll see.
So
we'll see what we can do.
You might have to work a free classic car night or something.
I think that's doable. All right, so results from Bristol this time last year, April 23rd, 2017. Rough days for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who finished 38th. Kyle Busch finished 35th. Brad Keselowski 34th. Ryan Blaney 33rd. Kurt Busch 25th. And Eric Almirola 22nd. Most of your lap leaders and stage top 10 finishers finished in the top 10 or top 15, so it really wasn't much of a topsy-turvy day, but Kyle Busch finished back there in that 35th spot, 120-some laps down.
Well, he was obviously involved in a crash, and if I remember, he was involved in multiple situations with blown tires.
That doesn't ring a bell, but I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. So, rough day for him, and good days. Jimmy Johnson ended up getting the race win. Clint Boyer came home in second. Kevin Harvick third. Matt Kenseth fourth. Joey Logano fifth. Larson, Elliott, Truex, Stenhouse Jr., and Hamlin round out your top 10. The Fall Bristol race last year, that race number 24 in the schedule, so 2 races before we crowned we finalized the playoffs. Rough day for Austin Dillon, who finished 39th, Eric Almirola 37th, Brad Keselowski 29th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 23rd, Martin Truex Jr. 21st, Clint Boyer 19th, and Chase Elliott 18th. Kyle Busch got the win after winning stage 1 and finishing 8th in stage 2. Eric Jones in that 77 car with Furniture Row Racing, when he was over there last year, finished second. Denny Hamlin third, Matt Kenseth fourth, and Kurt Busch fifth. Ryan Newman, Trevor Bayne, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, and Ryan Blaney rounded out your top 10. So between the 2 races, Kurt Busch did not have a good time. Excuse me, not Kurt Busch. Martin Truex Jr. did not have a good... No, not even there. What was the 2 I was thinking of? Brad Keselowski.
Keselowski and Earnhardt Jr.
So between the 2 races, Brad Keselowski and Dale Earnhardt Jr. had rough Bristol races in 2017. Dale doesn't have to worry about that anymore, as he gets to sit back and watch, but Brad Keselowski's got to work on improving his stats for that race for this year.
Now, have you seen anything as far as who's piloting the 00?
Yeah, Landon Castle has been announced as the 00 for today at Bristol.
Okay, yeah, now just today, or has he got several of them in?
No, I've heard rumors that he is tentatively locked in for the entire year, and I think that's really going to depend on if he tears up too much equipment.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's never had anything close to a top 10 or anything at Bristol, so he's just going to go out there and kind of run around and hopefully stay out of trouble. Keep the car in one piece so they can run the same piece back with a new set of brake pads at Richmond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's see. Landon Castle finished 32nd in this race last year, and then he finished 35th, and that was when he was with Front Row Racing in that 34 car. So not great finishes for him there, but, I don't think Starcom's strategy this year right now is to go out and win races. I think they're more interested in finishing the races clean and making sure that engine is safe to where they're not over pushing, they're not tasking the engine to where they're tearing anything up. They need to rebuild it, anything like that. They're about saving money and maximizing their purse when they get done at the end of the day.
Correct. Yeah, they want to make sure and hopefully finish the season on the black. I mean, because that's very important, especially for a young team, because then the money they invested in it for the year, they've gotten back out of it.
Yeah.
They didn't go backwards. That means they're moving forward. So when they go into the next year, they've got obviously that much more stuff, paid for, and they can keep adding to the coffers, so to speak.
And then, so that was it's Bristol coming up today. Now let's turn the page. Oh, and to get back to your question, so Landon Castle was confirmed for today's race at Bristol, but they have not confirmed who's going to be in the race at Richmond and then down in Kansas or Talladega. So, yeah, we'll find out here in the next couple of weeks. But good for them. They brought on 2 new sponsors for that car, too.
Well, and the thing Landon's got going for him is it's not like a lot of guys are losing rides, and there's a lot of stuff like that happening.
Yeah.
So, he's got a ton of experience up there at the cuff level. And, again, he has never been a guy that's torn up the equipment. He's always taken care of stuff.
TW Cable coming on board the 00 along with Superior Essex that's going to be on for today's race for the Food City 500 at Bristol. All right, let's turn the page to Saturday night. The first time we go under the lights for NASCAR, and first time we're going to be racing on Saturday night. Well, we're planning to race on Saturday night. Mother Nature has not been very nice to us so far this year, dirt-wise, and been kind of fickle for the NASCAR Cup Series. The race number 9 at Richmond earlier in 2017. This race last year, Eric Jones finished 38th, Ryan Blaney 36th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 30th. Boy, Dale really struggled at the short tracks, didn't he?
Yep, he did. Well, he always has. He's never been big there.
Chase Elliott 24th, Kyle Busch 16th. Those were the worst of the typical top finishers for your Cup Series results. Joey Logano ended up getting the race win, followed by Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Kevin Harvick. 6th place was Jamie McMurray, then Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola, and Martin Truex Jr., your top 10. The playoff setting race. This was a race that a lot of guys just said, I have got to survive because if I play it cool, I can get into the playoffs. Matt Kenseth was the worst of the finishers, finished 38th. The worst of the typical upfront finishers, finished 38th. Clint Bowyer 24th. Austin Dillon 21st. Martin Truex Jr. 20th. And Ryan Blaney 18th. Again, this was Richmond, race number 26, just before the playoffs were set.
Yeah, this was the race where Derek Cope was on the track and umpteen laps down, and him and Martin Truex tangled real late in the race. So Martin ended up a lap down with a 20th place finish when he was the leader.
This was the race that was a result of everyone in the playoff picture was smiling except for Martin Truex.
Yeah, that was the one. Exactly. Yeah, they always do that picture after this race.
And after this, Derek was released from his ride. He then partnered with Starcom Racing and Starcom Fiber, and they created Starcom Racing. And a couple of weeks later at Kansas, they debuted that 00 car. So this was the beginning of
with
all
us
of that.
in their corner.
Absolutely. We were the good luck. Well,
we were there for him.
We were there for him. There you go. That's a better way of putting it. All right, so that's the 2-race preview. Bristol today on Fox and PRN. Picks are due by 1 o'clock. And then I believe next week's race, the at Richmond, I would get it in as soon as possible. Don't quote me on it because I'll have to go back and check my notes, but I believe picks are due by 5 p.m.
That sounds about right. I think a 6 o'clock start for the night race would be about right. What's Bristol this weekend? It's probably the same type of deal.
1 o'clock. It's a day race.
Yeah, night race in August. Okay.
Yep. So again, that on both races are on Fox. Today's race coverage starts at noon, and green flag waves about 1 p.m. Make sure to get your picks in on time.
I'll try.
All right. If you want to see, I wish we had more time in the show, but we've just ran a little bit too long today. But we posted a picture of the top 17 for the 5-week contest that we're going to be teaming up with Starcom Racing. And by the way, we talk about this every once in a while, but we don't get to talk about it near enough. If you want to join one of these 5-week contests, which we've got to sit down and figure out the Iowa Speedway one coming up in a couple of weeks.
Got that coming up.
Coming up in July, we'll be doing that. So we'll do a crewman for a day contest there, and if you want to get involved in that, I guarantee you it's a once in a lifetime experience for you.
Absolutely.
Free to play, thanks to our friend Rick Havenridge at Wealth Partners. Send me an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. I'll put you in a little group that I have all set up with about 30 people that want to get involved in these contests, and all you got to do is pick races for the 5 5 established races that we set aside, and if you win, you're headed to Iowa Speedway. But our winners are going to be going down to Kansas Speedway this weekend. I've had conversations with Kansas and with Starcom Racing. Everyone's on the same page. It's going to be a really fun experience.
And look, you got to be 18 years old to legally play the game. But if you're 16, put your dad's name in and win a couple tickets for you and your dad to go to the race. You know,
if you finish 2nd to 5th, you're all going to win a pair of tickets to both races: the Friday Night Truck Series race, the Saturday Night Cup Series race, which is like $150, $200 value. So a good win there.
Seat.
Right. Great race action down at Kansas Speedway. All right, we got to wrap it up for today. We'll be back next weekend. We will be live in the studio to recap the race from Bristol and Richmond. We will tentatively talk about who won the contest, but nothing's official until NASCAR comes out with.
Correct. So we won't know that until Thursday.
And weather permitting, Stan Cisar will join us in Turn 3 to recap the Icebreaker Challenge at Eagle Raceway. And then we will wrap up the show next weekend. Again, we'll be live next weekend, so your phone calls will be welcome. Make sure you tune in next Sunday for the Front Stretch, as Dirk and I will be live in the studio. This has been the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Soon the flowers will be blooming, and we'll all be busy enjoying the beautiful Midwest spring. With the arrival of spring, we all know ridiculous summer heat is just around the corner. A simple preventative maintenance plan from Eccles Heating and Cooling can make sure you're as cool as a cucumber during the hot summer months. Call Pat today for your preventative maintenance plan, or ask about a new energy-efficient TempStar HVAC. Eccles Heating and Cooling is there for you at 402-331-1755.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.